You're not going to get where you truly want to be if you have an entrepreneurial type of spirit. Even if you work in corporate America, if you just have major goals and dreams, you have got to have a large network. You got to have people that are out there, as I say, you know, putting your names in rooms that your feet haven't even entered yet. Amen. You got to have people out there that are willing to bring you resources and opportunities.
Hey, it's Obi Chikuma, Space and Equity. We're all about increasing assets and creating new space. Here today with a brand new but dynamic friend, Miss DeAnna Green, BossCHICS Houston, NYDAN Group. DeAnna, how's it going today?
It's going wonderful, Obi. Thank you so much for this opportunity to grace your stage and hopefully bring some good content to your platform and to your network. So thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. We appreciate you. I'm a big proponent on energy. And when somebody's energy is right, you just know it. And oftentimes we ignore that. But the first time we met, I was like, damn, like I thought I had my shit together, and I was like, I need to revisit, but this is, and I'm a big promoter of promoting people instead of hating on people, but I've enjoyed getting to know you in the short time. Want to see how we can continue to expand our networks, but before we do all that, let's get into how did you come up with the NYDAN Group? How did that come together? What's the origin story?
So 2016, I had just kind of come out of a really bad situation professionally wise. I had the opportunity in 2014 approached by some investors that wanted to get into the corporate housing, or what everybody is now knows it by, short-term rental. And I had about 10 years of experience with that, running other organizations. They approached me about starting a corporate housing business. And you know how you say when they tell you when you go out there and you ask God for things, you also need to make sure you are very specific about what it is that you want. You can't just generalize things. Well, I had always been putting it out there that by the time I hit 40, I either wanted to be running somebody's corporation or having my own business. Well, at 39, he blessed me with this opportunity, but I didn't go into the details with him, right? So long story short, I got these investors that came in. They told me that this would be my baby. They had absolutely no background in corporate housing at all. They just brought the money and the thought process that this was an industry that was obviously very lucrative. So I birthed that company from name, logo, branding, customers, team, locations, everything. And it was a very bad situation where I had to deal with some sexual harassment from the owner. I had to deal with a whole lot of high-level stress, and my pride got in the way, Obi, that I should have walked away probably 3 months into it, but I stayed for 2 years because I could not give up knowing that I had birthed this baby. It's like having a child and you just cannot give that child up. Yes. And I fought it tooth and nail. Well, in 2016, I had landed a really big client, a private school here in Houston that catered to international students. And they had brought an opportunity to me where they wanted me to house about 150 of their students in corporate living while they built their on-site dormitories. And I was about to actually hand this opportunity over to a new company. I was going to let the one company go and go work for somebody else. And on Memorial Weekend, talking to my husband, he said, "You have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. This is your opportunity. Why can't you do this yourself?" So that weekend, after praying, talking to, my spiritual advisors, my coach, I pulled the trigger. I gave my notice with the other company. I signed everything with the new opportunity, and NYDAN Real Estate Group at that time was birthed. So it was only made to just be corporate housing. That's what I thought I was going to end up staying into. NYDAN was in existence. And then 2 years into it, I was getting all of these clients that needed real estate services. So once they transitioned from corporate housing to now they're here permanently and they need permanent housing, I was handing them off to my Realtor connections. and the light bulb went off. DeAnna, you got money walking out the back door. What are you doing? Right? So I went and got my real estate license here in Texas, really as a wraparound service. Didn't think I was actually going to pursue being a realtor, let alone now being a broker. And then 2 years after that, I started kind of getting bored. My husband can recognize when I'm bored, and he started doing research on, okay, I think we're ready to get back into investing. We had done that quite a bit when we were in North Carolina. We were affected by the 2008, 2009 financial crisis that happened, real estate bubble. And we looked into it and bought a We Buy Ugly Houses franchise in 2018. Did that for about 2 years, wholesaling, learning again, the wholesaling, the fix and flip, the buy and hold, that type of area. And then 2020 decided, okay, we're missing where the money resides, which is the lending side. And so he researched about building and growing a lending company. And we literally launched that 3 days before the pandemic hit in 2020. So NYDAN Lending Group was born. And as of today, we've got it all up underneath one umbrella, which is the NYDAN Group, as you mentioned. But we are everything real estate, front and back. Full brokerage house, everything under one roof.
See, and this is what I'm talking about, how thorough you basically answered all the questions that I emailed you into one question. We talked about, so I was about to ask you about what obstacle did you overcome? We've already talked about it, but I'll say this, as you transition to that pain that comes from the obstacle, it brings up a lot of things. But you want to defend and hold on to, you want to go in attack mode, especially
I did.
Yes, you ain't gonna get me. How did you manage that so that it didn't consume you? You were able to thrive as a result of it rather than it. Yeah.
That's a good question. And, I think the biggest part was once I got out of the pride and the ego piece of it, and also realizing that what I coach to my clients about with entrepreneurship, there's so many challenges that come your way and you got to have tough skin. I had to take some of my own advice. I definitely think what allowed me to bounce back and keep a lot of my relationships that I had built over the years intact was that I was transparent with my clients, with my vendors, and with my employees. When I had to go and have those tough conversations that this company is about to fold, and I had been the face of it, that all of these relationships started and ended with me, and I had to eat some humble pie and go in and sit down, and even to the point where there wasn't money to pay invoices to these vendors. Like I was so concerned about what my reputation and how my good name might be soiled from this situation. And I went in, like I said, my tail tucked between my legs, and I sat down, and I didn't even put a lot of blame. I just said, unfortunately, a lot of bad decisions were made. This is the aftermath of it, but I promise you, if you continue to do business with me, you will never experience this again. And to this day, I am happy to say that every one of my vendors, my clients, even the people that were my employees that have gone to do other things have still stayed in my circle. And I have never, ever, ever put them in that situation. But that within itself was very humbling. It taught me a lot of things about business. It talked about not having all your eggs in one basket. That's why NYDAN is so diversified right now, because depending on obviously the market we're in right now, how real estate is so cyclical. I knew from that experience to not just be in one industry, or else my family and my livelihood and people that might be on my team livelihood would be affected by. I learned that you need to vet your investors, that all money is not good money.
Yes.
I learned how to lean on God even more, because when I tell you, I know he couldn't hear nobody else's prayers, Obi, during that time, because I was on that prayer line every minute of every hour, like, Lord, I know you brought me this far, but you did not bring me this far to leave me in this. So what's my lesson?
Yes.
And when the dust cleared, I saw the lesson. The lesson was one, be specific to God about what your dreams and what your goals and what you want from him. But two, be okay with knowing that when God shows you signs that you need to move right then, or otherwise he will pick your ass up and he will move you and you will not be able to do anything about it. And that's what he did to me.
Ooh, wow. That spoke to me. That being specific. And how do you, when you want to truly hear from God, I know there's the believers that know the formula, know how to do it, but just share the DeAnna Green version. What do you do to make sure that you're hearing from God and you ain't hearing from your own flesh, other people's thoughts? How do you make sure, oh, this is God, this is not me?
Yeah, we're literally removing myself from the background noise, right? All of that noise that's going on around me, whether it's family, friends, business, society. I take some one-on-one first thing in the morning before my feet hit the floor. I'm reading a prayer that comes through our BossCHICS of Houston group chat. And I'm absorbing that prayer and I'm being purposeful about what I'm asking for that day. So I'm telling God, okay, this is what I need from you, but I'm also ending with, now use me. Who can I assist today? Who can I open up a door for? Who can I put names in a room that their feet haven't hit yet? So in the same breath that I'm also asking for the things that I need, I'm also want to make sure I'm a good stewardess, and I'm also giving to him what he needs from me in order to make sure that, I'm really, really hearing it. And there's moments where I'll hear it and it ain't necessarily what I want to hear. Right?
Yeah.
And that becomes the challenge and the test of saying, but I know God, but this is really, really what I want. And it's a feeling that comes over me. It's almost like a push. It's like, nope, I know you're trying to go this way, but we pulling you back over here. And once I just kind of sit in that, and I take the rose-colored glasses off of what it is that I want, and I have a more clearer vision, I can go along with it and feel confident in, I know he's still going to ultimately give me what it is that I want. I may just have to go through some things before I get there.
Amen. Amen. You said something that was powerful, and you said a lot of powerful things, but one thing specific is when you hear God move or he shows you a sign, you got to move like that. The challenge in that is that you got loved ones around you. So sometimes God will say, it's time to move. And you heard it. How do you communicate that to loved ones when it's a drastic move? Because I've done it wrong. So I'm asking for a friend.
You asking for a friend?
For a friend.
I'll be honest, Obi, I still sometimes struggle with that because I am the type of personality I am. I am naturally a giver. I'm naturally wanting to be sensitive to everyone else's feelings and emotions. And what I actually find is, I know this is going to be a cliche, that saying that says it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, because sometimes that's what has to happen in order for things to move and for you to, achieve what you need. So there are times where I don't say anything to anybody and I just do it. And then once it's done, it's like, okay, it's here now, and now let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. But I do feel confident that because I'm type A and I'm checking every box, that I feel that if I move that way, I'm probably about 95% sure that whatever decision I made is going to work out. And I've shown that. I want to say that. I think I've shown that with my loved ones, even my colleagues, even people that I've said, come on the team, trust me on this journey. I think that trust has been built. Because even when I don't give that information in the forefront and I have it happening behind the scenes, and then when I reveal it, they have a high level of trust of saying, okay, we know DeAnna has vetted this. And that's one of the other things I learned from that 2-year experience, was really learning how to vet every opportunity. Sometimes I feel like I probably overanalyze, because I will literally take a situation, Obi, and I will map it out where I think I've already figured out 5 different ways it could probably go wrong and how I'm gonna make sure it doesn't before it even happens. So I would say that a big part of it is it might not, God may be giving it to you for you to execute and to not necessarily share it with anybody, ask for any permission. Because if you think about it, the only permission, in all honesty, is his. If he gave you that vision, if he gave you that goal, if he gave you the opportunity, if he opened up those doors for you, the permission was already there. You need to walk through it, and everybody else on your team needs to feel confident that you're not going to lead them down the wrong path, because the man above is not leading you down the wrong path.
There you go. There you go. We collect an offering at the end of this discussion. So what you mentioned, that the NYDAN Group is a multifactorial, it's got multiple verticals. You were conscious about that. That leads me to believe that you understand and value, well, I know that you understand and value networks. Why are professional networks so important to you, and how did that build into BossCHICS of Houston?
So I had and it was one of those gut punches that you get throughout your life. Right before I had started the first company, I was working for an organization, climbing up the ladder, one of only us, not just color, but also female, and having to fight in those rooms. And I remember having my last ever corporate employer evaluation. And the owner sat across from me and said that I operate as a one-woman show, that as if I'm on an island by myself, and I do not utilize anybody else around me. Now, in that moment, I was sitting on my hands because I wanted to get up and knock me, you know what, out of him. Because in my mind, I was thinking, well, that's what you hired me for. You know, I'm your GM over 4 different locations. I'm running all of these teams. I'm managing multi-million-dollar entities for you. You shouldn't want me calling you every hour on the hour. You shouldn't want me having to lean on it. And so after leaving that company and realizing what he was really saying to me, that I was standing in my own way by not utilizing other people's talents, not increasing my network, not collaborating more over, because I'm highly competitive. So anyway, when he told me that information, and then I really realized that he was accurate, that I was not doing a really good job of really networking with other people, collaborating on a much higher level, and realizing the benefits that come along with having a larger network and having that collaboration over competition. You've heard me say that consistently, and I truly live by that now. Why is it important? Because I realize that I'm not going to be able to get to where I'm trying to go on my own. I don't care how great I think I am. I don't care how many policies and procedures and check to-do lists you have. You're not going to get where you truly want to be if you have an entrepreneurial type of spirit. Even if you work in corporate America, if you just have major goals and dreams, you have got to have a large network. You got to have people that are out there, as I say, you know, putting your names in rooms that your feet haven't even entered yet. You've got to have people out there that are willing to bring you resources and opportunities. When I tell you that's so huge to me, there's so many people in my network, you included now, bringing you involved with this opportunity with America's Real Deal and ISM. And one of the biggest things that I want to point out, and I know it's on your question here about just how as a Black community, we don't do this on a consistently, and sometimes we don't even do it right. When you just think about all the other cultures out here that are so much more advanced. Now, I get slavery. Trust me, I'm not trying to discount it. But what I also feel like in this day and age, with the resources that are available to us, with the world literally at our fingertips, be it internet, you know, social media, whatever the case may be, when you think about these other groups and how they recycle their money inside their community several times over before we even get to partake in it, we could actually be learning a lot from them if we would even take off some of our own blinders and if we would take off some of our own prejudices, right? Because we have that too. So I think that's important. And if you think about, and one thing I love about Boss Chicks of Houston is we have an array of women that are involved, from the logistics industry, from HR and employee relations, from an author being able to know how to write and get your story out there. Obviously, real estate and investing, home health care services, you know, estheticians from your beauty side of things, because we all need some self-care, right? We share so much of our experience, and not even at an expense to each other. Like my HR girl, when I told her, hey, I'm creating the NYDAN Group and I need to get policy and procedures in place, and I don't know what that looks like. She said, DeAnna, I got you. Shoot, she created documents I ain't even think I needed in the business or knew that was out there.
Yeah.
That's that collaboration right there, because she knows that I brought her into other opportunities that did not cost, you know, any type of money. It was just me opening it up to her. That's what we need. When I think about your organization, you know, the fact that you are bringing all of these entities together to say that I'm a full concierge type of business, and that no matter what you need business-wise, I got somebody that I can point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's where we need to be 100 times over.
Amen. You know, think about it. We talk about slavery was huge, no doubt about it. Colonialism was huge.
Right.
Japan, so the United States bombed Japan, the end of World War II, 44, 45. And their economy was decimated. I know we had the Marshall Plan, like, oh, our bad. Let's help you out a little bit. But still, by the 1980s, Japan was the second largest economy in the world because they decided they're going to work together. They were going to be one of the worst developers or manufacturers to the best. You wouldn't buy a Japanese car in 1955, and then everybody has Toyotas by 1985.
Yeah.
So it can turn over fast if we're just deliberate in how we do it. That's why we're so big on partnering with DeAnna Green and BossCHICS of the world, because you have that understanding of the network. I've seen it in the banking industry. There's just no way when you offer financial services, there are just different verticals that come about, and you'd be foolish not to connect those verticals. So I spent over a decade watching it done. I was like, I know Black professionals in all these areas, and they don't necessarily have to be Black, but ours is the one that is the most destitute. So
that's right.
Let's work on it. And it is just a matter of being deliberate. If you think about even in colonialism, it said, and I didn't come up with this statistic, but I believe of all the resources that were extrapolated from colonialism, from transatlantic slave trade, it was only like 10% of what Africa has to produce. So why would we not connect the diaspora? It just, to me, it makes all the sense in the world that we don't have to ask somebody's permission when they don't do right by us. Okay, you don't do right this time, next time it won't happen. Biden wouldn't be president without Black women.
That's right.
And what are we demanding of President Biden specific to the Black community? Not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough. And so,
and look how fast these 4 years are going. He ain't making it to no second term. Poor Uncle Joe. He's not making it to a second term. So we gonna start this vicious cycle all over again. Now we got to figure out who's gonna be coming at us for the next election, who's gonna make all these promises to us just to get our vote and get them in the seat. And it's really sad to see how it just keeps repeating itself over and over again, which to me says we also have to stop depending on our politicians to some degree and start at home, start right in our own backyard. How do we start really showing the world how we need to be treated, how we will treat each other, how we will show up for each other, and how we can really, really, really make a huge difference, because we show it in our spending power. Like we'll show it nowhere else.
Yes.
Black folks will spend some money.
Yes.
And on stuff that has no true investment value, has no true power to give us the leverage that we need. But we show up when it comes to that.
We show up. So there's a North Park Mall here in Dallas. It's kind of the high-end mall. And I wrote about this. It's on our website, shameless plug. I wrote about, basically, if you look at when Reconstruction ended, there was kind of a convolution of events. Reconstruction ended, the railroads had been overinvested and now people were losing money. There was great fires in Chicago and Boston. And so the economy was shrank. And in the South, they were like, all right, we got to get the Union Army out of here. And all these Black people that are now in power and they're gaining wealth, that needs to change. So Rutherford B. Hayes was like, okay, we're going to end Reconstruction by removing the Union Army. They started the Jim Crow South. That's where you had lynchings, Ku Klux, all that stuff came about. And in Africa, they were carving up Africa. They had a meeting in Germany. It's like, okay, this is how we're going to split up Africa. And we thrived in those situations. So whether it be Rosewood, Florida, Tulsa, Oklahoma, other city hubs, we created out of no other choice, we created our own incubated communities. These pockets of wealth. And we have really no excuse not to do that today. I'll go back to that North Park Mall scenario. I would go in the mall to shop, and post-COVID, you couldn't have a certain amount of people in the store.
Right.
The Louis Vuitton store.
Go on, speak on it. Tell that
the Louis Vuitton store would be 80% plus Black. The city of Dallas is, the population in Dallas is over 20%, but not over 30%.
Right.
So, and that area was probably maybe 5% Black.
Right.
There's no reason that 80% of the people waiting in the store should be Black people. Not to say they didn't have money. Right. But if we can spend money in Louis Vuitton, we can spend money developing networks, building wealth.
And think about where we're spending our money. That's the other thing. They don't even really want our money. They're not even creating the product. No. They don't even they specifically do market to us because they know how we feel about status. They know that our mindset isn't where, because they're not marketing to Caucasians like as heavily as they market to us, because they don't see that. They know that Caucasians, I call the pink people, and I can say that because I'm half white. Let me go and put that out there on your podcast so don't nobody think anything, right? I can talk about both sides of my people, but they don't market to them because they know that they know there's no wealth in that bag. There's no wealth in those shoes. That's not going to leave that generational, money there. But we don't. We want that instant gratification. We out here with every name brand from head to toe on our body.
And I'll raise my hand, like when you learn better, you do better.
Yeah.
The first time I made $100,000, which was barely $100,000, I went and bought a Mercedes. And the Mercedes was like $45,000.
And as soon as you drove off the lot, it had done depreciated.
And then I was so proud of myself when I paid it off. But then every time I had to get it maintenance, I was spending $12,000, $15,000 a year to just regular maintenance.
And you know what you say, you lead to something that I also always say to people. It's not about whether or not you can get it. It's whether or not you can keep it.
Yes.
Because while you out here still trying to have a certain type of vehicle or live at a certain place or do have all of these different things, getting it isn't always the hardest part. It's keeping it. It's maintaining it, right? And we don't do a good job of that.
Yes. We need to start looking down 250 years plus.
Yeah.
That's where we miss it. We talk about just this lifetime and when I get there, but there's generations after us. There's no reason that my kids and their kids shouldn't be multimillionaires with the game that we're spending to them. At this point.
And the knowledge that we have now, like, if you think about our ancestors and what little knowledge, not just knowledge, but let's just talk education. That, a lot of them didn't even have nothing past third grade level education. And the fact that they were able to muster up and take what was internally inside of them that God gave them and still be able to make a whole lot out of nothing and then pave the way for us, it's exactly what you said. We have zero excuses. And again, I'm not trying to discount slavery. I promise you I'm not. But what I am saying is we cannot keep also living in the past. Like you can't keep always looking in the rearview mirror. You got to keep your eyes forward.
Yes.
What's the game plan now? Great.
Yes.
That happened to us. Now, how do we change it? How do we make it better? And I think the one thing obviously we see with all of our ancestors is that collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the choice. It was, we got to come together to protect the family, to protect the unity, to hold on to what little bit of scraps were given to us, to know how to make a meal from, you know, pigs' intestines.
Yes,
like, now, I still don't like chitlins, okay? But you just see their mindset even then, and it was nowhere near the mindsets that we're dealing with today.
Yeah, and people always capitalize off of what we create. So they had nothing.
Copy everything.
Guess what? You just talked about Southern cuisine. Southern cuisine is a nice euphemism for Black folks' food.
That's right.
Soul food.
That's
so
right.
So the Southern cuisine industry is global. I'm sure it's $1 billion plus industry, and it is a derivative of soul food.
That's it.
Period.
That's
and
it.
You think about the crack epidemic. As a result, you got a lot of hustlers, and then hip hop developed out of that. That
right.
is probably $1 trillion plus enterprise.
And you know what's sad to me is being on social media, and especially TikTok, and seeing so many of these other, you know, races capitalizing and making money on our culture.
Yes.
There's this one lady I watch, and I don't follow her. She just comes down because she creates so much content. Older white lady, she definitely has to be about 60 something years old. And her entire content, Obi, is nothing but hip hop, R&B, everything Black. And she trends. And I know she making a killing from TikTok just because people are going to her and I'm thinking to myself, but we don't do that. We don't show up for our people. Yeah. It started with us. Why are we continuously giving them all the accolades? Why are we continuously giving them the exposure? Why do we feel their content is better and cuter just because they don't necessarily look like us? We need to stop that. Stop supporting that altogether.
Yeah. We don't show up enough. We show up like, so I'm gonna ask you to tell the people about the Boss Chick event, and we're going to transition the field of the boardroom because we do show up. We just need to do a lot more of it.
Right. Right.
So when you put on Boss Chicks of Houston, what was your end goal with that?
So initially it was to increase the awareness that women, particularly women of color, can work well together. That platform is built and derived from the fact that I was tired of seeing the content that is portrayed about women of color and that we're not able to work together. We're not able to play in the sandbox together. You know, we're catty, we're bitchy, we got attitudes. So that's where the platform, how it was birthed, was I was like, I can at least take my close network and now show the world, even if we only start with Houston, and then obviously it spans from there, that all that you see on reality TV, all that's out there in the news, all that's on the internet is so inaccurate when it comes to true bosses, right? True women that are about their family, their spiritual growth, mental, physical, and definitely about getting the bag. So putting that conference on, what I get a lot of times is obviously people saying, DeAnna, what's the blueprint? Because I'm sure, Obi, this is what you get. You pointed out just a little while ago about you taking 10 years of experience. And that was 10 years of you going through some education. Yeah. Whether you paid for it with your time, your physical being, your emotional being, your mental being, and then everybody else that's now seeing it automatically assumes, oh, he just killing it. But they don't realize that that's 10 years in the making. It's same thing with me. I was getting people saying, well, DeAnna, you know, I want to be a real estate agent now, and I want to do this now. And I kept saying, what you're seeing is 25 years in the making. You're not seeing 12 months ago. You're not seeing 2 years ago. So everybody was asking for the blueprint. And it was like, okay, well, then we're going to put this conference on. We're going to put it out there for you. But you got to open your mind, and that mind shift has to change. But also, more importantly, I wanted to make sure that we were purposeful about the people that were in attendance. It wasn't all about selling the tickets. It was also about making sure that people like you, people like Chris Senegal, people like John Austin, people like Frost Bank representatives, John DeBerry and Colin Davis, all of these entities and individuals that have a seat at a table that can help bring us along, they needed to be in that building. And at the end of the day, it was, I can lead y'all to the water. I can't make y'all drink it right.
Yeah,
But then you remember when I ended the conference, when I did my piece of it and I put the QR code up there, I said, what you'll never be able to say about DeAnna is that you cannot reach out and touch me and ask me for guidance or assistance, because here's my direct contact information. And that's that part of that collaboration. I'm here, you're here, you made yourself available as well. So I wanted to make sure, in partnership with my partner, Nicole, our vision was, we're gonna give you the blueprint, and we're gonna give you some contacts, and we're gonna give you some resources. And now there's no excuses.
You got to go out there and get it.
You got to go out there and get it. You remember I said, even after all of the sponsors, and thank you so much for your sponsorship, it was, here's your gold mine of list. You're going to get everybody that came, but now it's your responsibility to shoot your shot. I've done my part at this point. I brought the room together. I brought the key decision makers. I brought the resources. Now what you going to do with it? And that's where you see the cream, when the cream rises to the top. Because a lot of people right now are still out here talking about it. They don't want to be about it. They don't want to put in the work. But the ones that do, that's why we're here. That's why we're making the moves that we're making. That's why you're putting on an amazing conference that you're doing in February in a whole nother state and city. Like, that's big.
To us, it's all about, this is what network is. So in 2016, I moved to Dallas. I started doing commercial loans, and a lot of that attorneys have to help close a loan, especially in real estate. So I got with a real estate attorney, and we developed a relationship, both believers. This is an older white guy, but both believers, and we just connected. And we've been in that contact for 6 years. As we were developing our Scooters Coffee, my business partner and I realized, man, our liquidity is getting a little low.
Right.
We need to bring on more capital. So we brought on some partners, but as you know, whether or not they're qualified investors based on $200,000 and liquid, net worth of $1 million, people have to, it's hard to take people that don't know a process to where you want to go.
Right.
And so we had raised about 130,000. We needed more capital. And this gentleman just happened to call me. He said, hey, Obi, let's go have lunch. Have lunch. And he was like, what's going on in your world? So I told him what's going on. He said, oh yeah, my son works for a private equity firm. And you guys need to connect. So he sets up the meeting, have a meeting with his son and the private equity firm. And just so happened the private equity firm has one of its principals, it's 25 years in quick service restaurants. And he loves quick service restaurants. He knows how it works. And he wants to offset their larger real estate transactions, they call the home runs, with these more singles. And as a result of the money, so I put together, I thought, an excellent business plan, my brother and I.
Right.
And we felt like we needed $2 million to scale to 10 stores more rapidly. And these guys can do it in a heartbeat. They're
in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. And that's because of network. So the reason we put on Field of the Boardroom, the reason why you do BossCHICS is that you get to buy into that 25 plus years of experience, that 10 years plus of experience and relationships on how the blueprint is right here if you want to take advantage of it.
Right.
And rather than just talk about, oh, I'm so mad that we 80% of the people at Louis Vuitton, let's show you how to do it so you're building wealth and generational wealth versus you buying appreciable assets.
And look, I'm gonna raise my hand like you said. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a nice bag every now and then, a nice pair of shoes, because I have quite a few in there. But what I am very purposeful about, if I buy a bag, I'm also investing in the stuff. So that's my justification. And that's how I get away with it with my husband. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna get this bag, but I'm also put the same amount of money and we're gonna invest over here.
Yeah,
so there's still a way to do it.
You still should and enjoy what you want to enjoy. I love watches.
Right.
I'm gonna spend some money on watches, but I don't want my closet to be worth more than my real estate portfolio.
Or we out here having to do GoFunds in order to raise money to either bury somebody or something major medically done happen in your life. And it's all because you didn't think forward and you didn't make sure that your house was in order, your financial house is in order. If I see one more GoFundMe account for stuff that I really feel we should have already been prepared for, that's very disheartening to see.
Absolutely. Look, if you have more than $500,000 in net worth, shoot, if you have more than 250,000 and you don't have a trust, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong. I was watching this documentary. It was on Vice TV. And in South Carolina, that's where the Geechee folks are. A lot of people bought a ton of real estate, which is now Hilton Head. And it was the real estate nobody wanted. And a bunch of Black folks, acres upon acres. Well, I didn't even know this. I learned that there's this inheritance clause where rather than if you don't have your stuff in a trust and you have 30 descendants owning a piece of real estate together, what will happen is developers come and they pick off the family members that are in New York or people that don't care about the land no more. And once they get a critical mass, they can force the sale. So these people who have owned this right after slavery and beyond, it's been in the family for 200 plus years, now all of a sudden they're losing their real estate.
Losing it.
But if they had a trust, that wouldn't happen.
That wouldn't. And I'm glad you say that because that's one of the things, when we just had the cigars and cognac event, that is a kickoff to the fact that we were saying, we're going to give you the blueprint, but the blueprint, obviously it can't be, everybody has to wait for it once a year, right? When we put on conferences, because hosting a conference is a major deal. It took us 6 months. We're starting the planning now for the conference for June of next year because we've got so much more exposure now. We've got new collaborations, having you on the stage, looking at all of these other individuals. But we realized, wait a minute, we can't just have these people waiting once a year for the blueprint. So we were like, all right, well, let's start having these mini business events where it still capitalizes from the conference. Obviously, it keeps allowing us all to grow our network, increasing our knowledge base, increasing our resources. So one of the things I'm glad you just said is that needs to be at one of our business meetings. We need to have somebody in just talking about how to create your trust. That right there is part of the blueprint.
Absolutely. Absolutely. DeAnna, we could talk for
hours
upon hours. And I would love to do so, but I'm respectful of your time. I want to ask you this final question. Houston's music scene is real.
Right.
And so I want you to tell me who embodies DeAnna Green in their music from.
Can I have two?
You can have two.
Okay. So obvious, definitely Beyonce. When you just think about her mindset, when you think about how she has evolved, and I love the fact that she also always, in a very ladylike manner, can keep her composure, even when her back has been up against the wall, whether in her personal life or her professional life. I embody that because you won't know even if my back is up against the wall, like you're not gonna know it. Now I'm gonna come out fighting, but it's gonna be so ladylike that you're not even gonna realize I done landed a couple of punches on you. So I love that about her. Definitely her evolvement from music to movies to a businesswoman to empowering women to holding down a family and still able to look as good as she does. But then my second one is Meg Thee Stallion. So because every now and then, little ratchetness will come out every now and then. If you follow me on social media, I'm gonna give you some real raw and authentic. but it's me. You know, I can go to the, I still 47, I still love, I can go to the club, and mainly because I just love music. I love that. But at the same time, I can be in the boardroom having whatever conversations you need to have. I'm not going to shrink. I know my presence. Yeah, I think I'm both of them on any given day, and I can switch it up from minute to minute. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. So you probably have your salons and your beehive too, to strengthen the flows.
That's it. Yeah. And the boss chicks, they keep me balanced, because every now and then I'll have to say, I'm about to post this. They be like, oh, DeAnna, maybe don't post that. Don't post that.
Pipe down, pimp.
Yeah. Come on back down. Yeah.
Oh, so tell us, where do the people find you? I know you got a lot of platforms. Tell them how to get there, how to get to see DeAnna.
So on a personal level, it's Instagram and Facebook is the.deanna.green. My business wise, you've got BossCHICS of Houston, that's on Facebook and Instagram. Also the NYDAN Group, and that's NYDAN, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. All of them are all the same. On TikTok, if you want to see more of my Meg Thee Stallion persona, go to my TikTok page. But yeah, and then I have my website is thedeannagreen.com. That's where, if you're looking for any type of coaching, whether that's in the real estate, whether that's starting a business from the birth to the 5-year mark, or you want to get into this short-term rental, what everybody calls Airbnb, I've got programs and packages available to coach you on that website.
Awesome. DeAnna, we appreciate your time. So this is Space and Equity. We're all about increasing assets and creating new space. You can find us on IG at OB_empowers, also Space Equity Corp. On the YouTube channel, you have Space Equity. If you type in Obi Chikumo, you'll come up with this wonderful podcast. You'll see DeAnna next week. Here's what we do at Space and Equity. We come correct so they can't stop us. We provide the edutainment, if you will, with the podcast. We show you how to be an entrepreneur through our Scooters Coffee franchise. And then we take the 15 years plus of banking experience, and we've developed a network called Come Correct Consulting, where we have the whole breadth of professional services that you need at your tips with relationships that we've already established. DeAnna is going to be joining us in February, President's Day weekend, in Charlotte, North Carolina, at I think a Hilton in Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll get you the stuff on our website. This is Field to the Boardroom, the Black Tech series. Technology is where it's at. You think about Google, the Alphabet Group is one of the largest. Google Me is, people understand what that is in the whole entire lexicon, and they're a 20-year-old company, one of the largest companies in the world. So as tech evolves, Black entrepreneurs in tech need a space where they can network if they want to connect with larger organizations like Google or Microsoft. We're going to talk about how that takes place. DeAnna is going to take a part in kind of, people are going to show off what their business is, and it's going to be voted on sort of like a Shark Tank experience. When you come correct, it can't stop you. Come join us at this. We put on the event the right way, just as Ms. Green does. This is going to be a $75,000 budget. We know we're going to walk through and make it happen because we believe in what we're doing, and the resources will come correct, and it can't stop you. Thank you, DeAnna. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.